Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about Bone Black Memories of Girlhood by Bell Hooks. The copy that I have is 183 pages long. It was originally published in 1996, and from my knowledge, based on the research that I've done, I have not found an audio version of the book. But if you have a resource where I can find that, please leave that in the comments. So I'm going to read the blurb, which reads: Stitching together girlhood memories with the finest threads of innocence, feminist intellectual Bell Hooks presents a powerfully intimate account of growing up in the South. A memoir of ideas and perceptions, Bone Black shows the unfolding of female creativity and one strong-spirited child's journey towards becoming a writer. She learns early on the roles women and men play in society, as well as the emotional vulnerability of children. She sheds new light on a society that beholds the joys of marriage for men and condemns anything more than silence for women. In this world too, black is a woman's color worn when earned. Daughters and daddies are strangers under the same roof, and crying children are often given something to cry about. Hooks finds comfort in solitude, good company in books. She also discovers in the motionless body of misunderstanding that writing is her most vital breath. Okay, so I came to this book quite much later than it was published. I literally just discovered it for the first time, I think in 2018 or 2019, I can't even remember. And this was a book that I thought would be an easy enough read. I mean, it looks small, easy, accessible. It was accessible in terms of the writing style, but my goodness, did I weep reading this book. You know that cry where you've got mucus in your mouth. The mucus is running down into your mouth. You are crying so hard, it's like at some point you just have to let it be. That's how much I cried reading this book. I distinctly remember reading this in during my commute in winter when I was still living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and this book was a companion for me. But it was so emotive that emotional, and it evoked so much emotion in me that even in the train and at the train platforms, I couldn't hold back my emotion. I remember crying at Essex and Delancey stop in New York, in Manhattan, and just wailing. Like, it got to a point where I was like, okay, it's happening, it's fine. I'm just gonna cry, and it's just gonna happen. These people don't know me, they don't pay my rent, they don't buy my bread, it's fine. Just let it out. This book was, gosh, just such a deep dive into memories, her own memories, Bell Hooks' memories, but also it reminded me of my own memories of childhood, my own memories of, the things that I think I had put away inside me that I forgot about. A lot of the stories that she picks from, obviously because of obviously from her own background. And this is somewhat of a memoir. And she grew up in the South in a low-income community, obviously during Jim Crow era, so segregated, and clearly her community was mostly black. And as a result of all those things, being low income, being a woman, being young, a child, being black, living in Jim Crow era, she very much lived on the margins of society. And I think that there were so many ways in which her memories of girlhood mirrored mine that it was very hard to look away, and it made it very difficult for me to not acknowledge my own memories of girlhood. Some of the things that really stood out, number one, was she spoke about arriving to school so much earlier than the white kids because they lived far away. And that was definitely a literally exact experience that I had going to school. I grew up in a township outside Pretoria, Garangua, and we would take the bus Okay, we would take 2 buses. We had to wake up around 4 a.m. so that we can leave the house around 4:30, so that we can catch 2 buses to get to school by 6:30 in the morning. And then we had to wait until 8 o'clock for everyone else to start arriving for school to start. And it got to a point where I actually had a key to the school. I had a set of keys, but hey, we're taking. I had keys because we arrived so early that it was like nobody's there to open the school, so they just gave me a copy of the key and I was able to open so we can sit inside. So it just like triggered a lot of memories from childhood. And so that was one big similarity and one big portion of my life that it reminded me of. Another big thing was when she was talking about her experience exploring her sexuality during the puberty ages. And I think for women, this is such a different experience. It's actually interesting because when I think about puberty and I think about how boys explore their sexuality, I feel like I have a little bit more information about that that's front of mind than I do about women. And I think that's because in sexual ed and also when we look at media, that experience of wet dreams and like masturbating and like having an erection in the morning are things that are in the, public discourse and mainstream media, mainstream conversations. But that same period of time for women is not as discussed. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine where we had going back into our memories, talking about the first time we masturbated, what that experience was like, and like during that period of time, what we used to masturbate. And that was the first time I'd ever remotely had a conversation with another woman about that period of time and our sexuality specifically. And so that was fascinating how she talks about her experience and the shame around, that exploration, which in fact is such essential. It's an essential part of growth. It's an essential part of moving from girlhood to womanhood. And I do feel like a lot of women are deprived of that. There's a lot of women even now in our adulthood who I speak to who still have a lot of shame around masturbation or shame around their own pleasure where sex is involved. And so I think that reading her experiences reminded me of why there's so much shame and guilt attached to sexual pleasure for girls and women. Something else that was very, very much like similar to my own experiences growing up in South Africa was the conversation around colorism. Now, when you're a child, you don't have the terminology to talk about colorism. You don't have the words to say, this is colorism, or you're treating this person better because they're light-skinned. You are just observing and you're taking in information based on the experiences that you're having, based on how people treat each other, based on the community you're in, based on media that you're consuming. And one thing that I remember from when I was a child was that all the cartoons I watched, all the toys that I had, for the most part, except for one I'll tell you about, were white. And there was this, Barbie was like the ultimate doll you could have. When you watch TV, my favorite shows, Paper Ann, much too cool for 7th grade, Paper Ann, she's like 1 in a million. That show, yeah, wow, off key, but bottom line is that was my favorite show. I identified with Pepper Ann. I wanted to be in a school in America like the white kids. I wanted to have a locker. Look, those were the things that I was consuming. When you think about the shows that were on TV, those were the people, the young girls that were my age were mostly white. Yes, after some time I started seeing shows like Family Matters, Tia and Tamara, Moesha was such an important show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, did I mention Family Matters? Yeah, anyway, so all those shows started like kind of, One-on-One was another one with Kyla Pratt. That's So Raven, I didn't watch that much, but I guess that also contributed. But yeah, I think those media images that were fed to me in a sense that I consumed as a child, but also like the toys that we used to play with, the picture books, the storybooks, all had mostly white people, white children. And so that creates a weird like distance or like lack of comfort in your own race because you are not that. And somehow in your mind, you feel like we're all the same because you're a child, but then life experiences show you that we're not, okay? And something else is, another thing around the colorism experience is that in my own family, we have a lot of different skin tones. And I remember being a child and noticing the difference between some of my family members who were light-skinned and that the treatment that I would get. My sister is quite light-skinned. And thank the heavens that my sister is as aware, as conscious, and loving towards me, that she was able to kind of pinpoint and communicate to me that, no, Didi, the reason why some people treat me better is because of my light skin. It's not because I'm a better person or anything like that. It's just because people have this idea that proximity to whiteness is better. And of course, the reason why we have this feeling or this belief that proximity to whiteness is better in whatever form it comes in, whether it's financial, whether it's lifestyle, whether it's the way you look, whether it's cosmetic, is because there are real benefits to proximity to whiteness. You know, whether we want to admit it or not, the fact that I have this accent, the fact that I speak English the way that I speak, has opened doors for me. I can't deny that. The fact that I went to a white school definitely affected my access to opportunities and resources. Also, my ability to be in social spaces with white people and understand their references and understand their point of view, to be able to, you know, have jokes that they can relate to, is access. That's social currency, and this is all related to proximity to whiteness. And so this book really dives into that in such a way that it's painful. It's really painful to look at, because this was a book that she wrote a long time, that was published in 1996. It's 2021. I'm pretty sure that children growing up now are having very similar experiences. Now, back to the white doll versus black doll conversation. My father actually was and is very much conscious of messaging. And I remember from a very young age, my father always saying to me, you don't need to braid your hair. You don't need to do anything to your hair. Your hair, you are worthy. You are beautiful with your hair growing up into the sky towards the sun as it grows naturally. You don't need to do anything extra. And I remember, because at this time when my dad was telling me this, it was before I got to the point where I was using relaxers and stuff like that. But even with my dad reassuring me that I'm beautiful as I am, that I don't need to change my hair, I still wanted to relax my hair. I wanted to be straight and shiny. You know, again, proximity to this ideal, the white standards of beauty that we are fed and that we consume in our media and in our world. And it took me a very long time to get to the point of actually following my dad's advice without it feeling like painful or that it was hard to do, like me just growing my hair the way my hair grows right now. I'm so grateful to be in this place where I can appreciate the way that I look like this, and without feeling shame. Of course, there are still moments where there's nuggets of like, should I do something different to my hair? Should I maybe try to look more refined? You know, even terminologies like that, like looking scruffy and assigning that type of language to blackness and black features or African features, and then refined, beautiful, straight, professional, assigning words like that to whiteness and attributes that we assign to whiteness is problematic. But my dad also bought me a black doll. You know, I had a black doll. I actually have a photo. If I can find that photo, I will add it into this video, because it actually makes me so emotional every time I see that picture of myself in our backyard with the black doll there, because I think I didn't like that doll. Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. I didn't like that doll. I thought that doll was ugly. You know, but my dad every time would pick it up and put it back in my playpen or my play area, like, no, this is beautiful, this is a doll, it looks just like you. And I was just like, that's not me, I don't look like that. You know, because there was a rejection already at that very young age for who I was and what I looked like, you know, because what I thought that was ugly, quite frankly. Anyway, before I go further into this topic, I do think that this is a book that everyone should read. Okay, I'll rephrase that. I think anyone who is interested in getting a deeper view into the specific experiences that young girls, particularly black women, girls from low income families experience, this is the book to read. This book's touched on loneliness. It touches on the experience of marginalization. It makes it real. It's not like just a theoretical concept. It really drops you into that experience. One more thing before I stop talking about the book and move on to the other topics is that this book is a great way to explore the way in which Bell Hooks has become the writer that she is. The experiences that she goes through in this book explain why she has the positions that she has, and it's like these were the beginning stages of her becoming who she is. Another interesting fact for those of you who don't already know, the reason why Bell Hooks chooses to write her name in small letters like that is because she wants to highlight, well, firstly, her real name is Gloria Watkins, and Bell Hooks is she's taken that name from her maternal great-grandmother's name, which was Bell Blair Hooks, I think. And the reason why she doesn't capitalize the first letters of her names, or that all the letters are small, is because she wants to highlight her work and her literary offerings as opposed to herself, which I think is a very interesting concept. Another beautiful device that she uses in this book is she toggles between first person and third person perspective, and I think this also mimics how we look at our own memories looking back. Every chapter is about 3 pages long, so it's literally like visiting memories. And I think what this is going to do for any reader is invite you to go back into your own memories of childhood, and to dissect them, re-look at them, and also have a conversation with yourself around like the purpose of memories, and reflecting on your own memories, and how memories somehow you can have the same event that happened with, let's say, 4 people who it happened with, and all 4 people might have a very different memory of that very same thing. And so that's the beauty of this book. It's very poetic. It's like she's bearing witness to her own memories and reflecting upon those. Very poetic, very beautifully written, short chapters, and extremely emotional. I want to revisit this book, but I always know that I need to be like kind of ready to go dissect my own past, and that can be like a tough challenge for anyone. So that is this book, Bone Black. Highly recommended. Short read, but very much many gut punches that you get from reading this book. Okay, the book community spotlight for this week is Brittle Paper. Brittle Paper is an online literary magazine for readers of African literature. They are Africa's premier online literary brand, inspiring readers to explore and celebrate African literary experiences in all its diversity. Their mission is to cultivate a fun and informative platform for readers who love literature from Africa. We inspire, entertain, and empower readers through an optimistic, diverse, and immersive experience of literature. Under their What We Do section, it reads, we feature news about books and daily happenings in the African literary scene. We publish fiction, poetry, book reviews, and essays. We bring African literature to captive audiences in digital spaces. We publicly document the contemporary African literary scene. Another interesting thing about Brittle Paper is that it is founded by Ainehi Edoro, who is also the editor-in-chief. She has been included in a lot of prestigious lists. For instance, in 2016, Ainehi was included in New African Magazine's list of 100 most influential Africans. She was also in Nigeria's Guardian as one of the 5 most influential Nigerian women of 2016, and in 2018 she was included in OK Africa's 100 women list. So I highly recommend following Brittle Paper, subscribing to them, receiving news in your inbox all around African literature, but also they present a lot of opportunities if you want to submit something, any literary prizes that are up for grabs that you might be interested in submitting to. And yeah, I just feel like it's a great way of keeping your finger on the pulse of African literature and what's happening in that area. So I love receiving this, and sometimes I just go on the website to browse what's going on. Yeah, so please subscribe to them if you're interested in African literature and that kind of space. Okay, the mixtape of the week is actually a mixtape that is featured on Ukhozo FM Stereo, which is a channel on YouTube. I definitely feel like it's one of those diamonds in the rough that people have not discovered yet, and I definitely can see their vision. I see what they're trying to achieve with that platform. But the specific mixtape that I'm referring to for this week is a mixtape by it's a mixtape called Terra, Terra, and it's a mix by Nandi JKJ. A quick explanation of what they wrote under their description: something of an elevation, something of a meditation. Our friends and selector Nandi JKJ shoots us into a pensive orbit, and the waters there are wavy. Take a swan dive into the steady and familiar waves of tension and intimacy. And they recommend don't operate heavy machinery while listening to this one. I would agree with that. It's definitely a deep, intense, meditative. It really feels like if you were able to take a deep breath and then dive deep into the ocean or a river or a lake of some sort. Ooh, goosebumps. This is kind of the sonic experience that could accompany that. It's very intense, and I think it very much is similar to the book that I have spoken about today. Very intense, very deep, and reflective. And dreamy, also very dreamy. So I recommend this. It's 35 minutes long, so it's not so long, but it's like an intensive dive. And I hope you get an opportunity to listen to it at some point. Very beautiful mixtape. Okay, I don't know if you can hear the neighbors, but anyway, reflections for today. I feel, oh my gosh. Anyway, let me just do my thing. Yeah, I feel good today. I feel like I need to still get better at like pre-recording these. I feel like because things have been so hectic in my own personal life with applying for all kinds of things, this has fallen by the wayside, but I still enjoy coming here and doing it, and that's what matters most. And it is definitely encouraging me to read. One other thing that I've been thinking a lot about is that I want to actually start reviewing books that I'm not reviewing books. This is not a book review, but talking about books as soon as I've read them. And so once I've finished reviewing some of the books that I've read a long time ago, I'm going to start trying to time my filming with when I've just finished reading a book, because I feel like that's when it's the most like alive in me. And that could be, I think that could add an interesting element and freshness to the videos. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a beautiful day further. Goodbye.